As of Generation 9, there are a total of 1,025 Pokémon. However, Scarlet and Violet only has 733 of them, leaving 292 Pokémon completely out of the game even after all DLC and transfer support has been made. With terastallization being the main gimmick of Scarlet and Violet, and the addition of new moves, items, and abilities as well, you have to wonder just how good some of the Pokémon that were left out of the game would have been if they had been included in Scarlet and Violet. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing what I consider to be some of the best Pokémon that are not in Scarlet and Violet, and theorizing how they would function if they were in Scarlet and Violet VGC, with access to terastallization, access to Gen 9 Pokémon as partners, and all other new features added. While this is VGC focused, I would love to hear your thoughts on how you think they would function in singles as well, or even in the fan-made format of National Dex that allows all Pokémon from previous generations. Let's start off with the elephant in the room, Shedinja. Shedinja has the single best ability ever made, Wonder Guard. Wonder Guard makes Shedinja immune to all neutral and not very effective direct damage, which is balanced out by the fact that Shedinja only ever has 1 HP, no matter the EVs and IVs. The only way to knock out Shedinja is by hitting it with super effective direct damage or indirect damage. The thing is, the air balloon makes the user ungrounded for as long as they have not been hit with a damaging move, and if Shedinja terastallizes to electric, its only weakness is to ground, a type that it is immune to from the air balloon. This makes Shedinja, in theory, completely immune to all attacks. The thing is, there are quite a few ways to damage Shedinja indirectly, so here are what I think would be the best counterplay to Terra Electric Air Balloon Shedinja. Burn and Poison deal chip damage every turn. Sandstorm chips all Pokémon on the field every turn that are not Rock, Ground, or Steel type. Stealth Rock deals a small amount of damage to all Pokémon entering the battle, which still affects ungrounded Pokémon. Mold Breaker allows you to bypass Wonder Guard. Trick and Switcheroo swap the user and target's held item, so you could give Shedinja a Life Orb so that it knocks itself out with recoil damage, or really any item to get rid of its ground immunity from the air balloon. Perish Song would cause Shedinja to faint if it doesn't switch out in time, and since it's no longer a ghost type, it's susceptible to getting trapped by things like Shadow Tag. Now some of these forms of counterplay are really specific and things you would probably not normally have on a team if it were not for Shedinja, but the point is, there does exist a lot of counterplay that would be very easy to just throw on 1 or 2 of your Pokemon so you don't just auto lose the Shedinja matchup. Even so, I still think Shedinja would have been incredibly powerful, but ultimately too over-centralizing and too much of a Terra hog to make for a healthy metagame, so it was definitely a good call to not include it in Scarlet and Violet. We'll have to see what Game Freak does with it in Champions. Next, we have Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is an absolute menace of a defensive wall thanks to its typing and base stats. It is probably the best and really one of the only good stall Pokemon in doubles, a Pokemon archetype that fits much more in the playstyle of single battles. Ferrothorn gets the move Leech Seed, a move that drains the target by 1/8 of their max HP every turn, which is then restored to the user's HP. Combined with Protect to stall out those Leech Seed turns, Iron Defense to become even more bulky, Leftovers for passive recovery, a great deal of useful resistances from its typing, and Iron Barbs to punish any Pokemon that contacts it, Ferrothorn can become incredibly difficult to remove. Its main weakness is its 4 times weakness to fire, but with terastallization, this can be completely turned off. Terra Water turns Ferrothorn's 4 times fire weakness into resistance, and its only new weaknesses are to Grass and Electric, types that it originally resists. Terra Fairy turns Ferrothorn's 2 times fighting weakness into a resistance, and its only new weaknesses are to Poison and Steel, types that it originally resists or is immune to. So if you're in the position in a battle where you can deal super effective fire damage against a Ferrothorn, it can turn that off with terastallization, putting it in a significantly better position due to its unique type synergy, where the Terra type resists the original typing's weaknesses, and its original typing resists the Terra typing's weaknesses. I definitely don't think Ferris Wheel would be overpowered, but it would absolutely make great use of terastallization, increasing its survivability even more. Next, we have Togekiss. Togekiss is just a great support Pokemon, mainly because it has some of the best, if not the best defensive stats of any user of Follow Me. I have no doubts that it would be great if it were in Scarlet and Violet, especially with its wide move pool, including Wish, Life Dew, Encore, Imprison, Helping Hand, Thunder Wave, Yawn, After You, Charm, Light Screen, Reflect, and Trick. What I want to focus on is what would be its best Terra type. As a Fairy and Flying type, it has 5 weaknesses to Poison, Rock, Steel, Electric, and Ice. Steel resists or is immune to 4 of those types, and for Steel's weaknesses, Ground, Fire, and Fighting, Togekiss's original typing resists or is immune to 2 of them. This would simply boost Togekiss's defensive presence even more, but when making this video, I thought of a different unique use that might have seen some use, which is actually to make Togekiss more offensive, taking advantage of one of its abilities. Super Luck increases the critical hit ratio of the user's moves by 1 stage, so if you throw on a Scope Lens, you're at 2 stages, and if you Dragon Cheer Togekiss, you'd be at 3 stages, guaranteeing that all further attacks are now critical hits. With access to Stab, Moonblast, and Dazzling Gleam, and a 120 base special attack stat, offensive Togekiss is nothing to scoff at, especially if it's firing off spread damage moves with guaranteed critical hits. Next, we have Dracovish. Dracovish is one of the 4 fossil Pokemon from Sword and Shield, and definitely the one with the biggest impact on the competitive scene. Its stats are pretty average overall, but where it really shines is the combination of being a water type, learning the move Vicious Rend, and getting the ability Strong Jaw. If Dracovish were in Scarlet and Violet, it would have access to terastallization, allowing it to hit even harder, since Terra Water changes the stab modifier from 1.5 to 2. A 252 Adamant, Strongjaw, Terra Water, Dracovish, Vicious Rend moving before its opponent does absurd amounts of damage. If you throw Rain or a Choice Band on top of that, you essentially have a one-hit KO button. Here are some damage calcs to give you an idea of just how strong this is, even without Rain and a Choice Band, because that just one-shots everything. Golden Go needs 252 HP and 204 defense and a defense increasing nature to even have a chance of surviving. Farigiraf needs 252 HP and 244 defense and a defense increasing nature to even have a chance of surviving. Rillaboom and Amoonguss resist the attack, so they can obviously survive, but neither of them can be built to guarantee a 3-hit KO. And no Pokemon that is weak to water has any chance of surviving at all. Next, we have all 3 Tapu Pokemon, but I want to focus on the one that I feel would be the most impactful, Tapu Koko. The most obvious role of Tapu Koko would be as an electric terrain setter to activate the future Paradox Pokemon's abilities, Quark Drive. I assume if Tapu Koko were made legal in Scarlet and Violet, it would have been made legal multiple regulations before a restricted meta, like how Regs D, E, and F allowed Pokemon in the Scarlet and Violet national decks but excluded restricted legendaries. If Tapu Koko had been legal in these formats, the future Paradox Pokemon would probably have seen some more usage, mainly for the reason that their item slots would not be forced to be taken up by the booster energy. This would allow them to have more flexibility, especially since booster energy is always just a one-time boost that will wear off upon switching, but a boost from electric terrain can be gained again if the terrain is still active. Iron Bundle could get a Quark Drive speed boost and hold the Focus Sash. Iron Moth could get a Quark Drive speed boost and hold the Choice Specs, and Iron Boulder could get a Quark Drive speed boost and hold the Choice Band, just to name a few. We still need to keep in mind though that if Tapu Koko were legal, the other Tapus would also be legal, making it terrain wars, especially with Grassy Glide Rillaboom teams and Psyspam and DD teams that we already know to be common in early Scarlet and Violet regs. Tapu Koko would also not be able to outspeed the speediest threats in the format, like Chien-Pao and Fluttermane, and with Fluttermane being another faster, stronger fairy type, Tapu Koko has some pretty stiff competition. All things considered, I think Tapu Koko would still be very good, and it's a shame that it and the other 2 Tapus weren't included in Scarlet and Violet. Next, we have the Aura Trio, which does not have an official name, and let's start with Xerneas. Other than Shedinja, Xerneas might be the scariest Pokemon to think about how it would function if it were in Scarlet and Violet. Xerneas is a restricted legendary and has one of the best signature status moves in the game, Geomancy. Geomancy takes the first turn to charge and then raises the user's special attack, special defense, and speed by 2 stages. With the Power Herb held item though, Xerneas gets to bypass this charge turn, allowing it to get doubled special attack, special defense, and speed in 1 turn. In Scarlet and Violet, Xerneas would have access to terastallization to increase its damage output to be just about the equivalent of a nuke with 1 turn of setup. A 252 special attack Modest Nature +2 special attack Fairy Aura Terra Fairy Xerneas Dazzling Gleam just about one-shots everything in its path. Incineroar needs 252 HP and 244 special defense EVs to guarantee a survive. Amoonguss resists the attack, so it can obviously survive, but it would still need 252 HP and 228 special defense EVs to guarantee a 3-hit KO. Rillaboom straight up cannot survive this without an Assault Vest, and if your Pokemon is weak to Fairy, you might as well just forfeit. I haven't even mentioned that it could use Terra for coverage, like Terra Ground or Terra Fire Terra Blast, use Terra defensively, like Terra Steel to resist Steel and become immune to Poison, and the fact that Flutter Mane exists as a partner to Xerneas, so it would also be getting a 33% Fairy boost from Fairy Aura. For Yveltal, it is obviously strong since it's a restricted legendary, but as a restricted legendary, it would only be legal in formats that allow a limited number of them. It doesn't have nearly the same setup tools that Xerneas has, but as a dark type, I feel that it would be a great counter and have great synergy with some of the most common Pokemon in recent Scarlet and Violet formats. Some of the top restricted legendaries are the Calyrex Riders, Pokemon that are both weak to dark. There's also the potential of partnering with Chen Pao and Shi Yu, dark types that also have abilities that affect the damage of all surrounding Pokemon. A combination of Yveltal's Dark Aura with one of these Treasures of Ruin out gives these horses a terrible time. An uninvested Yveltal Snarl with Beads of Ruin out can one-shot a Calyrex Shadow Rider and potentially two-shot a Calyrex Ice Rider. An Yveltal Foul Play with Sword of Ruin out one-shots a max HP, max attack Calyrex Ice, and really any remotely strong invested Dark move will knock out a Calyrex Shadow Rider multiple times over. There's also King Gambit and Urshifu Single Strike, very strong dark types that would thrive as teammates to Yveltal. Dark types don't like fairy and fighting types though, but Yveltal is a flying type and has Oblivion Wing for Flying Stab to deal super effective damage on fighting types, while also restoring its HP by 75% of the damage dealt. For Fairy, Terra Steel Terra Blast is probably its best option, as that also turns off 3 of its weaknesses, Rock, Ice, and Fairy. Given how dominant Calyrex Ice and Shadow have been as some of the most commonly used restricted legendaries, a dark type like Yveltal would send these horses back to their stable. For Zygarde, it has a potentially deadly combination of its signature move and terastallization. One of Zygarde's 4 signature moves, 1000 Arrows, is a 90 base power, 100% accurate, physical attacking ground type move that not only deals spread damage and doubles, but it hits flying types, levitators, and any other non-grounded Pokemon, and knocks them down to the ground for the rest of the turn. This means that the only types that resist 1000 Arrows would be Grass and Bug, 2 types that share 2 common weaknesses, Fire and Flying. Between Fire and Flying, Flying is the better option. The 3 types that resist Flying, Rock, Steel, and Electric, are all hit for super effective by Ground, and the 2 types that resist Ground, Bug, and Grass, are hit for super effective by Flying. Considering the fact that 1000 Arrows hits Flying types, a type that would normally be immune, a combination of 1000 Arrows and Flying Terra Terra Blast would quite literally be the most perfect type coverage you could ever ask for on a single Pokemon. There is no typing in the game, single typing or dual typing, that can resist both of these attacks, so you are guaranteed to get at least neutral damage on every type in the game with these 2 stab moves. Considering the fact that Zygarde gets Dragon Dance and Coil to set up, and can change its form to become even tankier, I think Terra Flying Terra Blast Zygarde would be an incredibly powerful Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet. And those are some of the best Pokemon not in Scarlet and Violet, and how I theorize they would function if they were in Scarlet and Violet. Let me know which Pokemon I missed. Thanks for watching.